a day to be a UFC fight fan in Australia. Let's break it down.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your main event.
Live from HBF Stadium Festival Hall. Melbourne Pavilion.
Not even backstage, we're literally outside.
Was that the best fight card in Australian MMA history?
Call me crazy, but make sure you call me when I'm right.
Be good at the Aussie MMA Instagram page and give us a bit of glow up because...
Welcome to the Australian MMA podcast. My name is Mitch Tinley, and jeez, what's the news? What's a busy, what would have been a Thursday around midday for people in Australia. Just huge news. I feel like the one that stands out the most, of course, Della Maddalena stepping in to take on Belal Muhammad for the UFC welterweight championship. Now, God, that's going to be good. He's looking to become just the third ever Australian to win the title. Then, of course, Alex Volkanovski, like a phoenix from the ashes, gets his chance to regain gold against Diego Lopes in Miami for the UFC featherweight championship. And, of course, a little bit earlier on, we had Steve Erceg being announced taking on Brandon Moreno for a huge fight in Mexico. Now, let's talk about Della first. Della Maddalena, originally kind of rumoured to be taking on Kamaru Usman back in, I think, it was probably even late last year. They thought he was going to be on UFC 312. That fight kind of never really eventuated, even though they all verbally agreed and everything, but they couldn't make it happen. Jack then was kind of linked to Leon Edwards, which I found very, very interesting because they were both in the same management group with the great Tim Simpson and Dan Maudsley out of Chosen Advisory. And I always thought it was a bit weird, kind of like putting your two cash cows together. It's like being a drunk stepdad and making your two sons fight in the backyard. That's what it felt like. And I didn't really know why. Maybe it was like, passing of the guard type thing, or, at the end of the day, just make them both a whole lot of money because it's the best fight to make. I don't know. But that was a hard one to kind of, because fans of both, but it was a massive fight for Jack. And then we hear rumblings that someone's injured or the fight's not happening. Look, there was a whole sort of back-end group chat stuff going on where people weren't sure what was happening, but that fight was going to be off. We then find out too, this is back-end as well, that Shavkat, who was taking on Belal Muhammad for the UFC welterweight championship, apparently, this is what I heard from the great Benny P. If you don't know who Benny P is, go follow him on YouTube and or Twitter. He just looks like a random dude, just like in the comments or like in the street. Like you wouldn't think anything of it. But honestly, mate, he has some of the greatest rumors and news, and he seems to get more info sometimes before like Ariel Helwani, who's like one of the biggest MMA journalists. I don't know, that's wild to say, but yeah, Benny P knows a hell of a lot of shit. So go follow him, and he will often just tell you. He doesn't even just do it for the content. He just likes being like the guy. Now, yeah, Benny P said that Shavkat apparently had told Hunter Campbell that he'd be out. Hunter Campbell, the basically second in charge of the UFC, that Shavkat would be out for up to a year. And they said rumblings that they could pull Della from the Leon Edwards fight and put him in there against Belal Muhammad. And lo and behold, he's bloody right. That little random dude in his bedroom breaking news to 900 view videos, and Benny P's got it right. Look, that's huge news for Jack. I think it's May 10th, UFC 315 in Canada. It's massive. If you go back to an interview I did with Ben Vickers, his head coach from Scrappy MMA a year ago, we talked about it then that, years prior, Ben Vickers was talking about how Della was going to be a world champion in the UFC long before, I think it would have been even before Rob Whittaker and Volk had belts. That's how long ago it was. But yeah, that far back, Ben Vickers was singing Della's praises, and obviously rightfully so. I mean, he doesn't get better than that. And then, he's getting proven right. Jack Della is a special, and there's a lot of really good guys at Scrap MMA, like amazing, talented guys. Rod Costa, Jack Becker, Candiata's doing really well. Anyone who's anyone, is great in Perth out of that gym. And Jack Della just sort of stands taller than all of them, which shows you just how good he can be. And everyone in Australia and now the world is very high on Jack Della. And it's kind of interesting too, because he's already a bit of a fan favourite even without saying much. He's a man of few words, but they carry weight. And Belal Muhammad seems to kind of not have a whole lot of fans, or at least, vocal negative ones. So I can only imagine that Jack Della is, even in Canada, is going to be beloved. They're going to support their Commonwealth boy and push Jack Della. And can Jack Della become the third ever UFC world champion from Australia? I think he can, but look, perfect opportunity to do so, especially with everyone that fell out. Ian Gary coming off a loss. There's kind of no one that made more sense than Jack Della. So, look, big opportunity, but he's a big time player, and we'll see if he, the prophecy can come to fruition. So, stay tuned. We then got, of course, Alex Volkanovski being announced take on Diego Lopes as Ilia Topuria goes up. Drops the featherweight belt. Of course, the former champion Alex Volkanovski lost his belt to Ilia Topuria, who beat Max Holloway as well, knocked both Volk and Max out, which is, pretty impossible to do. So it's kind of earned the right to call his shot. Says he's cemented everything he can do, dropped the belt, and he's headed up to lightweight. It's not confirmed if he's getting a lightweight title shot, and I am unsure how that kind of is playing out. I think Ilia was even linked to a fight with Dustin Poirier, but once again, the great Benny P has given me the insight, and he says that fight is not going to happen. So still hanging out hope for Ilia versus Islam, and that'll be interesting as well, because as good as Ilia is, Islam is massive. Seen both of them in person at UFC Perth and UFC Sydney, and Islam walks around like he's like the size of a welterweight. He's huge. He's massive. But yeah, Volk taking on Diego Lopes. A lot of people saying, why didn't this fight happen in Sydney? They just couldn't make it happen. I know for a fact that Alex did not want to fight for anything less than a title, and he's kind of earned that right to call that shot. And I feel like Diego Lopes, putting him up against Ilia again is, although we're all behind Volk and we think he can do it, he, was on the wrong end of an early knockout type thing. So it's not as intriguing, where this one's a little bit different. Diego Lopes is an up-and-comer, but he hasn't done anything near as good as Volk. And I think it's a stylistically very intriguing matchup. And I also think it's, it's the classic Aussie battler style. Like, Volkanovski is not supposed... He was never supposed to get the title to begin with. If you think back to... Even when he beat Max, people were calling robbery early on, and he wasn't the man of the people that he is now. And he's really done a full switch to where he is unanimously loved. But yeah, I do think that Volk, if he can get this belt against Diego Lopes, which everyone I think already is kind of counting him out in, as although it's a better sort of matchup, I reckon, than Ilia, it sort of, it's in a situation where Volk is probably the underdog. I don't know if it's age or why they're doing that, but if Volk can get it back, that is as Australian can get, and that man will be not just in the UFC Hall of Fame, but the Australian Sport Hall of Fame. I really do believe that, and I don't mean soon. That's eventually anyway. I mean yesterday. Look, it's going to be very interesting. Volk kind of probably only has one more chance at this. So, lay it all out of line. So both these sort of news stories, Volk and Jack, are two completely different things. Like, Jack Della is definitely not getting it early, but he's getting the big opportunity. You know what I mean? This is his real sort of launching pad, where maybe other people could have got it before him. In fact, Shavkat was given it before him type thing. And then you've got Volk, who everyone's writing off. And then a situation happens. Both of these boys, Volk and Jack, kind of capitalizing of don't get ready, stay ready type thing. And now Volk's got an opportunity to sort of perhaps become top 3 fighters of all time if he wins this, I believe. I don't know. You let me know what you think. And to round it out, of course, news which was a couple of days prior, Steve Erceg pulled out of his bout with Asu Alamabayev. Apparently it was an injury, but yet Alamabayev is rebooked, I think, on the same card. So that's what Steve Erceg was told. But now Steve Erceg gets the opportunity March 29th to take on Brandon Moreno, a former UFC flyweight champion in Mexico City. So, he's fought in Brazil, I think, against Pantoja, where he was, booed out of the building. So he's getting ready to do that in Mexico because he's the most likable guy, or at least unhateable guy. And so they just keep putting him in enemy territory to see if he can swing them that way. But guys, look, very exciting times in the UFC. Make sure you hit up Australian MMA. Definitely let me know under in the comments what you think. Will Volk win? What do you think Jack Della's chances are? Give me some predictions. Maybe we can come back, and if someone's right, I'll give you a prize. How do you think Erceg's going to go? Are we going to go 3 for 3, or are we going to go 0 for 3? Or any of the, math in between. Guys, check out also as well, while we're here, I've got you for UFC news. Feb 22nd, Eternal MMA 93 on UFC Fight Pass. And then if you want to see some future champions, George Mangos and all those boys with the Hex card on March 1st. Follow Australian MMA _ Instagram, YouTube. Let me know your thoughts, as always. Other than that, catch you next time.
Vex MMA has officially teamed up with PRP Global, and their brand new website is now live. Head over to Vex MMA to check out their latest gear, perfect for fighters and fans alike. Whether you're stepping into the cage or just repping the lifestyle, Vex MMA has you covered.